Hare Krishna. So we're discussing from second chapter, verse 47. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur mate sangostva karmani. Says you have right to perform your prescribed duty. So here karma is translated as prescribed duty. You have right to perform your prescribed duty. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Ma phaleshu, not to the fruits. Kadachana, never. You are never entitled to the fruits. Ma karma phala hetur bhur. Hetu means cause, reason. Ma karma phala hetu. Don't think that you are the cause of the karma phala or the outcome. Mate sangosto karmani, and akarmani. Karma means to do work. Akarma means to not do work. So he's saying mate sangosto karmani, and never be attached to not doing duty. Okay, so let's understand this nicely. So there are four parts. First part is you have the right to perform your prescribed duty. You are never entitled to the fruits of your action. Don't consider yourself as the cause of the action, and don't be attached to not doing your duty. So this whole verse is the complete understanding of how we have to work. So the first part, let's try to understand the first part. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty. Now we have already discussed this prescribed duty based on your varna and ashrama. For Purusha Dharma, Stri Dharma for women. First, we have to perform our prescribed duty. Now, mostly, Prabhupada in the purport, he's saying, what is prescribed duty? Prescribed duties are just enjoined in terms of our modes of material nature. So, like you have Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Based on that, we have prescribed duties. Then there is something called as capricious work. Capricious work means just doing whatever we want, without having any idea of whether it is recommended, whether I should do it or not. Simply just doing whatever comes to our mind. And then there is a third part which is called inaction, which is not doing duty. So Krishna here is saying, don't do capricious work, don't do inaction, do your prescribed duty. So first know what your prescribed duty is and do accordingly. Now the second part, you're not entitled to the fruits of action. Unfortunately, we have been trained from childhood. You are studying. Did you get first rank, or did you score top marks? Otherwise, you will be told, what is the use? Do well, study more, etc., etc. Right? So our whole society is result oriented. Krishna here is saying, don't be result oriented. Complete contradiction. So why not result oriented? Of course, it doesn't mean that we should not, like, the idea is that we should not think we are entitled to the fruits, which means that we do something and we say, okay, because I have done this, I have to get this. So I worked very hard, so I have to get a promotion. No, this is not encouraged. This is not encouraged. No, but generally when you are doing some works, there is some something that needs to be accomplished, which if it happens, it is good. Like, for example, when you eat, you have to feel satisfied. Your hunger has to be satisfied, right? That is the expectation when you eat. Now you don't have to think saying that I am eating, so I have to, my hunger has to be satisfied. Not like that. Okay, I'm doing something, and as a general consequence, natural consequence of that, some result might come. If it comes, it's fine. If it doesn't come also, it's fine. Right? So we should do just as a matter of duty. Just because I am supposed to do this work, I will do this work. Not because I'm expecting some result, and because I'm expecting some result, if the result doesn't come, then what happens? Then I become disappointed. Now that is just on a material platform, but karmically, what happens? From a karmic perspective, we become attached. We become bound by that action. Whenever we expect any results, then whatever results come, either good or bad, we'll be entitled to the fruits, which means that we have to take that karma phala. If we expect, if we don't expect, whatever we do, we don't get the results. Even if you have done capricious work, though capricious work, whimsical work is not recommended, but still. But even if you are doing prescribed duty, but if you are expecting result, then you have to get the karma phala, good or bad, suffering in the next life, etc. So Krishna is saying, you're not entitled to the fruits of action. So don't expect any fruits from your work. Okay. Also, don't consider yourself as a cause of the activity. This is one major cause for, false ego. Anybody and everybody, whatever work they do, something good happens, they say, I did this. I. If something bad happens, then we'll try to, point fingers at somebody else, saying, no, because of this or that situation happened, something else happened. But if something good happens, I did, because of me. Isn't it? So much full of false ego we are. Hypocritical false ego. Why hypocritical? Because only if it is good, then we want to accept, take credit. If it is not good, then we don't want to. Now, if you tell somebody saying that do only your prescribed duty, don't expect any results, don't consider yourself as the work, people might say, okay, then why should I work? Right? I should not expect results. I should not think myself as the doer of the activity. Then why should I work? So Krishna is saying, still, you should not be attached to not doing work. You should do your work. Should do your work. Now, one might ask, why like this? Why this whole thing? Anybody has any thoughts? Why should we work like this? Why shouldn't we work expecting results? Why shouldn't, why should we not just say, I don't want to do my duty? What is the big deal? Why is Krishna saying this? There should be some reason for this. Anybody has any thoughts? Anybody wants to suggest anything? Why something like this? It is completely contrary to the whole, to life, the way we've been brought up, right? It is completely contrary. So anybody has any thoughts why Krishna is recommending something like this?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
This the duty we perform to keep one thing is active in this world and then do service to others. And by doing that, we also earn our day-to-day living. So to earn our own bread and butter is a sort of duty. We have to do that. Without depending on others. That is my thinking.
No, that we have to do our duty. Yeah, I mean, we have to do our duty because we have to earn some money for our living, etc. That is fine. But why should we work without expecting results? Or why should we not consider ourselves as the cause? So what is the whole idea here? The whole idea here is to become detached from work over a period of time. Now, what does this mean? Detached from work means, see, the whole path of moksha or liberation, right? Is actually first it starts with karma, work, right? Everybody wants to work. That is stage one, right? Now, if one continues to be addicted to work, right, then there is no way he can come out of the bondage of work, right? And the more one just continues to work, the more he's going to keep accumulating punya and papa. Now, as per Varnashrama, person is expected to work only up to the age of 50. Okay, brahmacharya is from 0 to 25. Then grihastha is from 25 to 50. After 50, one is expected to give up material work. Now, why one is expected to give up material work? Otherwise, we become attached to the material world because we are still engaged with the material world, earning money. Then when we get money, we are trying to get things from, buy things. And, we'll just be, there is no other thing in our life. There will not be any other thing in our life except earning money, spending, and trying to please our senses. Life will only be this, and this is what we see today in the material world. Practically everybody is just engaged at whatever age, right? They're engaged in earning money, getting something for some money, and then spending it for their own sense gratification. That's it, right? But this is not the meaning of life. This is not the goal of life. The goal of life is not just simply to earn, make merry and have fun, earn money, make merry, have fun. This is not the goal of life. Like Sethuraman Prabhu was saying, we have to earn because we have to just earn a livelihood, because we have to eat, we have to, wear decent clothes, we have to have a shelter, etc. And that's the only idea of earning. That's the only idea of work. But the whole world has gone beyond this, in the frenzy of making money, sense gratification. Gradually, at the age of 50, we are expected to give up this work. Now, how will we give up this work if, say, till age 49 and the last day, 364th day, we are so attached to work? How suddenly 50th year we'll give up everything? We can't. We can't give up everything, right? We can't give up our work because we are so attached to it. So what Krishna's process is saying that gradually from day one only, don't be too attached to work. Just do it as a matter of duty so that, when time comes for you to give up, you're not very attached. Just say, okay, my responsibilities are over. I've taken care of my family. I've given whatever I have to give to my children, family, etc. Now they have grown up. They are on their own, and let them live their life. And I want to focus my energy elsewhere. Now, if I don't come to this stage, when will I ever think about Krishna? When will I ever think about bhakti, God, goal of life, higher sentiments? I will never come to that stage. I will just remain like I've seen so many places, houses where father is also earning, son is also earning. They don't need money at all. Both of them are doing the same work. Son is earning because it's his age to earn. Father is also earning because he doesn't have anything else to do. Many people tell me saying that, when I say, you have to give up work at the age of 50, what will I do if I give up work? I will go crazy. This is how addicted we are to work. Actually, work is not just simply a means to earn livelihood. It is actually an intoxication. We're intoxicated by work. I know so many people who want to work on Saturday and Sunday also, even though it is a holiday. I say, why? Because I don't have anything else to do. I'm so engaged throughout the week, and suddenly Saturday, Sunday, I feel very, useless. No engagement. So this is not the way we are supposed to do work. We are supposed to do work with just enough. I mean, like Arjuna fought, right? I mean, we have to fight. We have to put everything, whatever capability we have to put behind our job. We have to do it sincerely. No question about it. But not expecting results, not getting too attached to work, not thinking that I am the doer. Because if I think I am the doer, then I get entangled in the results. Then I have to suffer, punya, papa, and enjoy good results. All that will happen. So basically, Krishna is saying that's not the approach. The approach is to be detached. You have to be detached from this work, not be too attached. And the results, actually, we have to use the results in Krishna service. So Prabhupada in the purport says, saying that when we are not very interested, not too attached to obligatory duties, then it will lead us to the path of liberation. Like I said, then at some stage in our life, we will say, okay, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should think about something else. Right? And not just get stuck with, not just get stuck with our work throughout our life. Right? So this is very important actually for everybody to understand and apply. Nobody is saying don't do your work sincerely. Do your work sincerely. But don't just work for results. Because one thing, if like I said, if results don't come, then you're disappointed. Then people say, okay, I want to change my job. This job is not good, this, that. And we get into unnecessary loops. See, we should understand whatever we are supposed to get in this life world, we will get. It's not that, because I'm in this job, this boss is like this, that is why I'm getting this. No. If you're supposed to get more as per your karma phala, then you will get more. Then obviously then time will come when you will change your job, etc., etc., right? You would have experienced this sometimes, So all of a sudden, you just one fine day you just decide, okay, I'm going to quit, and then you suddenly apply some other, or suddenly from nowhere some call comes which you are not even planning to take. Take up a new job. Suddenly something comes and it super clicks, and then I mean, these things will happen because as per right time, then things will happen. We don't have to go running behind this. That's the point. Karma phala will anyway come to us without any mistake. It can't be that whatever has to come to me will go to my neighbor. No, it is flawless. The laws of karma are flawless. So it will come to me. Don't have to worry. So our focus, our energy has to be elsewhere. Our energy has to be behind thinking, saying that why am I here? What am I doing? What am I supposed to do? Right? And in these kind of, very difficult situations, why things are happening like this? How can I get out of this? Is there any escape path? Right? So we have to use our intelligence to ask more important questions than simply engage day in and day out, work, 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 work. Nothing has no time for family, no time for children, no time for nothing. There's no time for family and children only. Then what is the question about higher questions to be asked, etc., etc., right? We simply waste our life. And then what happens? Puna puna charvita charananam. Same thing we'll be doing. Same thing. Then we get bored at some point of time. Then we say, okay, I'm going to change my job. I mean, unnecessary stuff. Totally unnecessary. Like that is why, sometimes it's good if you are in a government job. Like I keep telling all my friends from HL, saying that, so perfect. Because you don't have to go looking for another job. It's there. It's taken care. Rest of your life, don't have to worry about what you're getting, how much you're getting, etc. And do your work, fixed timings. Rest of the time, engage in bhakti and whatever your family responsibilities, right? But unfortunately, this whole software and modern economy is just thrown people off their foot, and they don't even know what they're doing. Basically, just running crazily behind money and promotion, and and people want to do good work. Oh, I'm not getting good work. Good work means basically slogging, right? You to become like a dog of your employer, and he says wag your tail at 12 o'clock in the night, you should be wagging your tail. That's it. That is good work. I mean, so basically gross waste of time, right? So we should just simply work sincerely. See, I'm saying this, I'm not saying this out of some, theoretically. I have followed this in my life. This is one thing, fortunately, by Krishna's mercy, somehow it came to me very naturally. I simply did my work. I never bothered about the result, about whether I got a promotion, whether I got some hike. I didn't bother about it at all, right? And gradually, the result came. I mean, the detachment came, right? So it's not an exaggeration. It's not something that we should be worried about. It is something that it will work for everybody, provided we hold ourselves back. Because if our nature is to get too excited about work and this that, which was there, I mean, it's not like I didn't have all this excitement when I started work, right? But after coming to Krishna consciousness, after chanting Hare Krishna, we should give up all this waste of time. Just do work, because I have a responsibility to take care. I'm doing my work, and do it sincerely, happily, because Krishna has given me this work as a means to take care of my family. So I'm doing it sincerely, happily, not like some force. I don't like this, but still I have to do nothing like that. It's just all in the mind. And that's another thing, right? This whole so-called, what is it, knowledge industry. It's all intelligent people. They're using their intelligence on wasteful things, right? Then we start mental speculating. I don't like this. I like this, that, and mind here, there, jump up, down. Total waste of energy. So use your energy to find out meaning for life. What should I do? Where should I use my time? Where should I use my intelligence? Rest of the time goes in, okay, I do my duty, get my whatever salary I need to get, take care of my family, duties, that's it. Right? So this is the recipe for that achieving that perfection in work. Because perfection in work is also an art. Krishna says that. So he continues to say, okay, if you work well like this, what happens? Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samubhutva samatvam yogam uchyate. You achieve yoga. You achieve yoga. What does that mean? You achieve yoga. That means that you become equipoised. You abandon all attachment to success or failure and you just become equipoised. So you're nothing, I mean, like no ups and downs in your emotions, in, you know, nothing. You just, whatever comes, you just simply accept, saying, okay, that's fine. This is what it's supposed to be. What this helps us to do is also learn to be able to deal with life that way, not just work. You know, this is our nature, right? So when we are so, you know, uncontrolled in our expectations of results, we keep up going up and down. Similarly, we will not be able to deal with life situations also. We'll get flustered. You know, we don't have the ability, we don't have the tolerance, because everything has to happen like this. I did this, I have to get the result. Right? And it becomes very difficult to deal with difficulties in life. Right? We have to become tolerant. We have to tolerate everything. And fortunately or unfortunately, work is a major part of our time, especially for Grihastha. So if you learn to be tolerant with your work, then you will actually learn to live life more meaningfully. Right? So please try practice this. This is an amazing, you know, like instruction, secret, whatever you want to call it. 29. Durena yavaram karma buddhi yogadhananjaya buddho sharanam anvicha kripana apalahetavaha. So now Krishna is going into realm of bhakti, right? He says what happens now, because so far he was talking about karma, then he spoke about buddhi yoga, then he spoke about how people are attached to Vedas and, you know, all the nice things that Vedas say. And then now he says, you know, that you have to just do your duty without attachment. Now he's saying you keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. So this is the first time when Krishna is speaking about surrender in Bhagavad Gita. And he says those who want to enjoy the fruits of their works are misers, kripana. There are two words, there is brahmana and there is kripana. Kripana, generally we say, no, like he has so much of money, he doesn't want to use it. He's a miser, right? So one who wants to enjoy the fruits of their work is also a miser, because it's not supposed to be. He's not supposed to enjoy, but he is enjoying. He's a miser, right? So Krishna is saying here, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service. So he's saying, you know, do your work, you know, as a matter of your duty. Don't be too attached to results, right? Then in parallel, you practice bhakti, right? Then you don't keep away all bad things. Bad things means in sense gratification, right? So first thing is sense gratification. Don't get engaged in the sense gratification business. Follow, practice devotional service. And he says, in that consciousness, surrender to me. Surrender unto the Lord. So surrender means that Krishna is the master of the house. I'm a servant. I'm just earning money to take care of his family. So I get the salary, keep it at his lotus feet. Saying that, Krishna, however you want to run the house, you please run. That means that we will stop ourselves from doing all non-devotional activities, right? In sense gratification, we'll stop all this. We'll say this is Krishna's house. In Krishna's house, what should happen? Only bhakti should happen. Okay. So there is, let me see if I want to read this. So there is something called Sharanagati. Okay. So one of our acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has written something about Sharanagati, surrender. Actually, maybe this will not be the right forum. But so one of the things that he talks about is how people spend their whole life just running behind sense gratification. Right? Even though, so he says here, right? Some few stanzas I will read. Oh Lord, I forgot you and came to this material world where I have experienced a host of pains and sorrows. Okay. While still bound up tightly in the unbearable kinds of mother's womb, You once revealed yourself before me, appearing only briefly. You then abandoned this poor. So he's saying how birth happens. So when birth is happening, then Lord appears in front of us because we are crying, calling for him. Then we say, after my birth, I will worship you. But then after taking birth, then we caught up in all these worldly illusions. Then I gave up that word that I spoke about. Right? Then proud of my accomplished education, I traversed from place to place and earned much wealth, thereby maintaining my family with undivided attention. I forgot you, isn't it? I earned much wealth with undivided attention. I took care of my family, but I forgot you. And he says, now in old age, I am weeping. I failed to worship you, O Lord. I wasted my days in vain. What will be my fate? So he is speaking, he's a great acharya. He is speaking in our language, like how most people in this material world suffer. Right. So he also says, with great enthusiasm, I spent my time in the pleasures of mundane learning, isn't it? So many people like to learn material things. He says, I've wasted my time in the pleasures of mundane learning and never worshipped your lotus feet. Reading on and on, my hopes grew and grew, for I considered that acquisition of material knowledge to be the life's true goal. How fruitless those hopes have turned out to be, for all my knowledge proved feeble. Now I know that all such erudition is actually pure ignorance. So like this, we are wasting our time going. Actually, see, if we are interested in reading, there is so much of depth of wealth of knowledge in the Shastra, right? Like, you want to use your intelligence in the right place, please use it in reading and understanding Shastra. It's not very straightforward as it might seem. It requires us to really, without it's a very serious science, right? It requires a lot of very disciplined application of intelligence within confines, within the boundaries that our acharyas Shastra has given. So if you want to use your intelligence, use it there. If you want to use your money doing things, please use it in service to Krishna. You want to buy things, I used to do this initially when I came to Krishna consciousness. I wanted to buy things, so I spent so much of money on books. Now I'm so happy. My whole house is full of Vaishnava books, Vaishnava literature. Because that was, because I had an urge to spend money, so I spent it on Krishna. Right? Or you want to travel, come, of course, post this Corona, etc. We'll travel to various places of significance. Right? So use everything in Krishna's service so that, you don't get stuck in this material way of things. And gradually then we'll come to the pure platform, right? Otherwise, we are stuck and entangled in this sense gratification, etc., and trying to enjoy our fruits. We can't proceed further really meaningfully. Okay, surrender. I'm going to briefly just talk about surrender because, it's more detailed explanation is in 18th chapter. We are still in the second chapter. So surrender has 6 aspects. Okay. It's called Sharanagati. It has 6 aspects. Anukulyasya sankalpaha, pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshishyati iti vishwaso, goptrutve varnam tata, atmanikshepa karpanyo, shadvida Sharanagati. Doing whatever is favorable for Krishna consciousness, giving up whatever is not favorable for Krishna consciousness, having full confidence, faith, trust that Krishna will protect. Then knowing that Krishna is the maintainer, not us. Throwing ourselves at the lotus feet of Krishna, saying, I have no other shelter. And full humility. Full humility means no I and mine, no ahambhava, no ahankara, no pride, no arrogance. No, I am this, I am that, I am, I mine, no I and mine. And knowing that I am worthless, submitting myself at the lotus feet of Krishna. If you do these 6 things, this is called Sharanagati, and Krishna says in 18th chapter, one who does this, I take care of all their sinful reactions. If you surrender to Krishna, Krishna takes care of all our sinful reactions. So we won't have to really suffer the way others have to suffer. It's all in Krishna's hands. right? So surrender is the key to get the mercy of the Lord. Actually, Lord Rama says in Ramayana, saying that, when Vibhishana comes and surrenders to him, saying that I want to join your party, I'm given up my brother and Lanka. Everybody says, no, don't accept him. He's come from the enemy side. Rama says, if one comes to me and even one says, I'm yours, I have to accept him. Even if Ravana does this, I will accept him and stop the war. So Lord is obliged to accept us when we go and surrender to him, because that is his real number one, like Krishna, Rama says, that is my number one duty as Supreme Lord, that I have to accept somebody's surrender. Otherwise, what is the point? Right? So we have to surrender to Krishna. We have to surrender to the Lord. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ube sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujjasva yoga karmasu kaushalam. So he says, what is the heart of all work? Like I already said. Buddhi yukto jahatiha. Engage in your work with this devotional mode. Right? Don't expect results. Right? So if you are engaged in devotional service, then both good and bad reactions in this life will be destroyed. Like I said, if we surrender to Krishna, then all our karma phala is destroyed. So Krishna is saying, therefore, strive for this yoga. Try to achieve this position of yoga. Yoga means connection with the Lord. Right? So try to achieve this position of full surrender. Right? And if you're working, also work without results, expecting results. Right? This is what we have to use our energy for. Working to please Krishna. Working to do devotional service, in the time we have. Why we have to do this devotional service? Krishna says, Karma jambuddhi ukta hi palam tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmukta padam gacchante namayam. He says, because by engaging devotional service, great sages free themselves from the results of work, and then they come back to me, to my abode. They come out of this miserable place of repeated birth and death. So by doing devotional service, we get out of this miserable material world. And he's saying people have done this. They've followed Buddhi Yoga and they've achieved perfection. Right? So we simply have to follow the process. So just to summarize what Krishna is saying here, one is, we do our prescribed duty. Just do enough to earn a living so that, we take care of our responsibilities nicely. 2, don't be attached to results. 3, engage in devotional service in the rest of the time. So which means that we have to have time for bhakti and not work 20 hours a day, because then we don't have time for doing bhakti. So have time to do bhakti. Keep all abominable activities, that means sense gratification, away. Center your life around Krishna. Continue like this, and then eventually you will achieve perfection. You'll achieve Krishna's abode. Simple. No complication. The less we are attached to this material world, the more easier it is for us to become attached to Krishna's world. The more we are attached to this material world, things of this material world, the more difficult it is to achieve Krishna. Actually, Bhagavatam says, saying that, one who has too many qualifications, good material qualifications, is unqualified, becomes unqualified. So Kunti Maharani says in her prayer, saying that one who is akinchana gochara, one who has nothing, not materially affluent, it's very easy for him to approach Krishna because he has nothing. His only treasure, only wealth is Krishna. But those who have, beauty, intelligence, position, money, they have so many things to surrender to. They will not surrender to Krishna. They will surrender to their wealth, they will surrender to their intelligence, they will surrender to their families, but they will not surrender to Krishna. So good qualification, good material position is a big disqualification for bhakti. It's okay. If Krishna has given it, then please use it in his service. Don't throw it away. But don't run behind it. It's of no use. It will only take us astray. It will take us away from Krishna. And then we might earn some money. We might think that, oh, I did something. Of course, we are entitled to get that money. But still, we might think, oh, see, I spent so much of time. I got so much of money. Then, like, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was saying in his prayers, right? At the end of our life, we'll think, oh, where am I? Where have I come? What am I supposed? What should I have done? I wasted my whole life without knowing the meaning of life. So we don't want to get there, right? We don't want to live very meaningfully in doing devotional service of Krishna, and at the same time taking care of our family duties, work, etc., etc. But all our energy should be around trying to serve Krishna all the time. So he says, see, beautiful words from Bhagavatam. Samashritaye pada pallavaplavam mahat padam punya yasho murare bhavam budir vatsa padam param padam yat vipadam na tesham. Says this material world is padam yat vipadam. Every step there is danger. Every step. Bhagavatam is saying this. This material world, every step, every place, there are miseries. And Vaikunta is where there is no misery, where there is only happiness. So this verse is saying, for one who has taken the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, for him it is very easy to cross this ocean of miseries. It's not very difficult, but you have to take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. Not our abilities, our money, our this, our that, and all that. So one who understands this, that our real position is to serve the Lord, we have to seriously engage in service, bhakti yoga. We have to seriously engage in bhakti yoga, not like time pass. See, one of the things that especially for grihasthas, is the amount of time that you're investing in bhakti has to keep increasing. Initially maybe you're doing 10 minutes, then 20 minutes, then half an hour, then 1 hour, then 2 hours. It has to go on increasing. It has to come to 2.5 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. It's not very difficult. Just see, we have to get up early, right? Assume get up at 5 o'clock, if not earlier, right? 5 to 9 is your time, because your work normally starts at 10. I mean, of course, HL is different, but others. So morning already you got 4 hours. And evening, if you can pull out 1 hour somehow, or half an hour before sleeping, everybody goes to bed, another half an hour, 45 minutes. 5 hours decent. If you do 5 hours bhakti, there is no way you're going to get entangled in this stuff, right? Definitely you will develop attraction to Krishna, attraction to bhakti, and move on the right path, while simultaneously taking care of your material duties. So gradually we should keep increasing the time that we are spending for bhakti. We can't just say, okay, I've been like spending 2 hours. Now it's been, many years I've been just doing the same thing and I'm happy with that. No. Like we are not satisfied materially with status quo. We should not be satisfied spiritually with status quo. Right? We should make progress. We should move towards Krishna. यदा ते मोह कलिलं बुद्धिर्व्यतिरिष्यति तदा गन्तासि निर्वेदं श्रोतव्यस्य श्रुतस्य च. Says, when your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. Basically, Krishna is saying you will become fixed in bhakti, right? You will not get distracted by other things, right? You will become indifferent to those and fix your consciousness on just serving Krishna. Right? Don't get distracted by work. Don't get distracted by pressure from relatives. Don't get distracted by some knowledge. Don't get distracted by some new way of sense gratification. No, become indifferent to all that. What you have heard and what you will hear in the future. Just focus, stick to this path. Shruti vipratipanna te yada stasyasi nischala samadhava chala buddhis tada yogam avapsasi. So when your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of Vedas, and it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, you will have attained divine consciousness. So this is important. Now Krishna is saying, see, after you do all this, you do your duty, you do bhakti, you continue like this. Now what happens? Then you will reach a stage when you are fixed in the trance of self-realization. That means you're just fixed in your activities of bhakti, and it's just so nice. And you're spending all your time in practicing bhakti, you're doing your work as a matter of duty, just using the results in Krishna service, etc. we will achieve a stage where we remain fixed in self-realization. Fixed means that it is called nishtha, right? So fixed, that is a stage. Adav Shraddha, tada sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, then nishtha. Anartha nivritti, then nishtha. So when we reach this fixed stage, this is called fixed devotional service, where nothing will budge us, right? So in that stage, we would have attained a divine consciousness. So we don't even understand what divine consciousness is. What is our consciousness today? Our consciousness is more or less material, meaning that we just keep thinking about material things one after the other, isn't it? What all kind of things do we think about? Can somebody say? Variety of things that we think about materially. Now, I mean, I want all of us to hear to understand, saying that we are in material consciousness, we have to go to divine consciousness. What is the difference in these two worlds? So what is material consciousness? Just thinking about material things. What all kind of material things do we think about?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, we most of the time we think about eating better food,
Eating better food, okay.
roaming around and
Roaming around.
driving better motorcycles, cars.
Shopping. Rupa Mataji, she couldn't stop herself. Shopping.
Sports.
Shopping. Sports.
Politics.
Okay. Okay. Others also can join in. Politics.
Yeah, gain more knowledge, more information.
Gain more knowledge, more information. Okay. Where else? I mean, where else is our mind engaged? Fear, worries.
Nowadays, saying news.
News. No change in that news. It is the same thing. It's just packaged differently. Anu Prabhu?
Securing future, Prabhuji.
Securing future. So how much time of our day do these thoughts engage? How much time of our day?
100%.
Yeah, at least when you're chanting, at least you should not be, no. So don't say 100%. And little bit of sleep maybe when you are like, in deep sleep. Right. So throughout the day, we are just moving from one thought to the other. And you know how we get hooked onto these thoughts? This example is given like, if there's a worm, like a centipede or a millipede, it goes from one leaf to the other, right? It takes on another leaf, then it, kind of gives up the grip on the previous leaf. It is like that, something random, you're seeing something, we heard something, we saw one message, that's it. Now change, context switch. Now go to the next, isn't it? So we keep switching from one topic to the other continuously without any respite, without any rest break. Now, divine consciousness is just the opposite. Divine consciousness means there is no any of these things you said. All the things that you mentioned, none of those things will be there in divine consciousness. Divine consciousness is where consciousness is only in Krishna or Krishna service. Now, just imagine where we are and where we have to go. Now, Krishna is saying here that if you remain fixed on this path, you will reach that position of Nishtha when you will actually attain divine consciousness. Which means that, you will reach that stage where you are not disturbed by material things. It's not that material things are not there. Material things are there around us still, will be there. But we are not affected by that. Our consciousness doesn't get gripped by those things. Can you imagine, I mean, what kind of a, are we scared thinking about this, or are we happy thinking that, we can reach this stage? Some people might be scared saying that, oh, no material things, no thinking about material things at all. Oh, Baba, I don't want such a thing. What is this? Is this a good position to be in or a bad position? This is exactly where we have to head. Okay, and in this divine consciousness, there is always bliss. There is continuous happiness. Because it is divine. It is not related to this material world. right? But it's not something that we can achieve overnight. It will take time. It takes time. But the key ingredient for this success is actually being fixed on in following our process. Whatever our acharyas have given, chanting, reading every day, trying to associate with devotees, eating Krishna Prasadam, right? So doing the normal activities of bhakti and then working without expecting any results as a matter of duty. If we do this, of course, then I want to add some few side things. Don't expect results. Use your results as much as possible in Krishna service, as much as possible. Because you will have responsibilities, etc., etc., etc. If you have the space, use it in Krishna service. Don't be attached to results. Be tolerant. All the sutras Krishna has given in Bhagavad Gita. If we follow all this, we will definitely achieve this position of Nishtha. And then we go on to Asakti, Ruchi, Bhava, Prema, which are higher orders of bhakti, higher stages of bhakti. Okay, so Krishna so nicely in the second chapter, he has brought us to that stage. He said, okay, you will achieve divine consciousness. Now next week, Krishna willing, we will discuss about Sthita Prajna. So this Sthita Prajna is what are the qualities of a person who attains divine consciousness. So I just gave you a rough comparison between material consciousness and divine consciousness. Next week we'll get into what are the qualities of this person. What does this person look like? How does he think? How does he walk? How does he sit? All aspects about this personality would have achieved, and this is called Sthita Prajna. That stage, what is it that we would have achieved? It's beautiful actually. When we read this next set of verses, we think that, oh, amazing. I mean, can life be like this? Some sample, like for example, he's absolutely not affected by good or bad, evil, honor, dishonor, nothing. He's not affected by anything belonging to this material world. Today on one end we want to be happy, on the other end we don't want unhappiness, isn't it? We want only one-sided. We want only happiness, no unhappiness. We want, if we like heat, we want only heat. We don't want cold. But this world is a world of dualities. Unfortunately, if you like heat, you will suffer from cold. If you like happiness, you will suffer from distress. We can't avoid. But this Sthita Prajna is not affected by these things. Heat or cold doesn't matter. He doesn't give too much of importance. He just goes on with his service. Okay, so this is the secret of the second chapter. Basically, engage in bhakti, do karma yoga, offer results to Krishna. Don't expect results. Whatever results come, offer to Krishna. Be equipoised in your work. Do bhakti. Spend as much time as possible in bhakti. Surrender to Krishna. And then achieve this perfect stage of divine consciousness. Of course, then there is further progress as well beyond that. Okay, so I'll stop here. If there are any questions, clarifications, etc., we can discuss.